Summit. It is my big pleasure to, so to say, discuss with Georg Kopetz in this Fireside chat the topic of scale-ups in Europe. So we chose the topic of from high-tech startup to scale-up opportunities and challenges to grow out of Central Europe. Georg Kopetz is CEO of TTTech, one of the most distinguished founder in Europe and one of the real role models, and it's a great pleasure, Georg, to have you here. I would like to invite you to start with a keynote, 10 to 15 minutes, and then I have a few questions for you in addition.
Super. Dejan, thank you so much, and for all of you listening in over the streams, I think this conference is about growth. It's about growth and capital, and we would like to have a little bit of discussion how we can initiate more scale-ups and more growth in Austria, especially in these very interesting times, and what to do to go basically from a startup to a scale-up. I think we have a lot of momentum around Central Europe, around startups. We can even use more momentum, but there is momentum there, and we need also more momentum around scale-ups, and venture capital is an important ingredient to move from the startup world to the scale-up world and to really become a global growth champion. And the idea was that I give you a little keynote at the start, and then we have a discussion on the topic of this topic about Austria and Central Europe. So I'm starting with the first slide, and we are still testing a little bit the technology. So I see myself, but not the slides, but now it's coming. So I skip here the starting slide. So what is scaling actually? What is scaling up? I think most of you know there's a very famous book written by Reid Hoffman, the founder of LinkedIn, about blitzscaling, one of our Bibles in the book. So Geoffrey Moore, Crossing the Chasm, was one of those Bibles, but also blitzscaling is one of those Bibles in our company. And blitzscaling is providing a general framework and the specific techniques that allow companies to achieve massive scale at incredible speed, but without certainty. And I think this without certainty is something which I think is really relevant for our times, because we are living in a time of volatility, of a time of uncertainty. And if you want to achieve a dominant position in the digital market, and if you have a good product, and if this is a global product that you can scale on the global market, it's really about momentum. It's really about massive momentum. So that's what is called blitzscaling. So to really grow from 10 or 100 people to 10,000 people. And we have to ask our question, how many of those companies do we have in Central Europe that really want to scale from 10 to 10,000 people? It's very difficult to scale, but the first question is even our willingness and our intention there to grow and play in this global Champions League. To the difference of blitzscaling, there's also fast scaling. That's also what we do in some parts of our group. Fast scaling is also the willingness to sacrifice efficiency for the sake of increasing our rate of growth and rate of revenues, but in an environment of a little bit more certainty. So the costs are better understood, the markets are better understood, there's more predictability. So we'll see in some of our businesses, be it our off-highway business, be it our aerospace business, we are more in this stage of fast scaling. But on the auto part, where we really have seen currently a transformation revolution in the business, it's about the blitz scaling. And the 5 scale-up factors that you can read in any book, it's also, of course, about finance. But we will cover the finance part later in our discussion, and I will try to a little bit discuss the other elements before we then come to the finance part in our Q&A. So TTTech is really a truly global group of high-tech companies with more than 2,000 employees, organized across 5 distinct verticals. And each of those verticals have a very selective market and product focus. There's the auto vertical, where we focus on software in the car, safety software in the car. There's the aerospace and safety vertical, where we focus on safety networks in aerospace and space applications. The off-highway vertical, where we focus on safety platforms for off-highway machines like construction, agricultural. Industrial IoT, where we focus on industrial networking and edge. And then there's also Android, our consumer business, where we are focusing in getting Android also in new markets like smart TVs or even smart cars in the future. We are scaling. Are we blitz scaling? No, we are fast scaling. So the dark blue part on the numbers is basically the business without the auto business. The light blue numbers is the business with the auto business, Why is it seen only in the last 3 years? In the earlier years, the dark blue part was also including the automotive business. But we managed, end of 2018, to reinvent the company. Actually, we did the press conference, and you were there, when Samsung made a huge investment. We said in order to grow the company, to go to the blitzscaling, we need to have the partners to blitzscale. And we said that it's not enough to have an automotive partner like Volkswagen Group and Audi, or a chip partner like Infineon, who have been shareholders for a longer time. We also looked for real tech players like Samsung to come in to enable us this fast growth and to enable us this global reach. So the group is privately held with solid financial and diversified shareholders, and those different entities are financed with what I call equity financing and growth financing. So that's how it looks like. So we have 4 of those dedicated go-to-market entities, and we have 2 interesting formats. In one format on the TT Control, on our off-highway business, we do a 50-50 joint venture with a large German hydraulics company, and TTTech Auto. That's the part of this example. I want to give you some overview how we want to scale with TTTech Auto in the software business. So in order to scale, you have to increase your footprint, because in the auto market there are only very few large OEMs, very few large tier 1 companies. And if you want to come in there, let's say, a capable partner for software, you need strong partnerships. And in order that they take you seriously, you have to reach somewhat above 1,000 software engineers. Because if you are too small, the risk is too high that you will not be able to ramp up, to execute, to bring in additional competences. So in order to really become a leading software player in the auto tech universe, we said for ourselves, either we grow and scale and with right to qualified employees, or we will not be able to play this role of integrating various software applications in the car. You need a strong track record. I think it's very difficult to start up a company in automotive. So we had a very long incubation period that you see also on the lower left side of the screen, where you've seen it took us a long time until we started to scale. And also you need to have a very good product market fit, so technology as a core, in order to be able to really sell something that is needed by the global market. You need to differentiate, and also high tech needs time to develop. You're not just starting something overnight, but it always takes a few years, and sometimes in our case, a few decades. So just a few words about partnerships. So it's a B2B business, and it's very important that you work with those partners. And as I mentioned before, you need to have a certain scale to be a credible partner. Second element, you need to have an ecosystem play. So we have the Autonomous. That's our Viennese-based, Hofburg-based ecosystem that we launched last year with all or many major players being represented by top level, BMW, Audi, of course Daimler, and all different Asian OEMs and US companies like Intel or Nvidia. So it was a very great event, which shows that you can build ecosystems out of Central Europe, which is important also to infiltrate and shape the market. We're also using Central Eastern Europe as one of our development spots. I think that's a major advantage we have in Austria, that we are on the one hand very close to the industrial world, be it Italy or Germany, but we are also very close to the, I would say, tech and research world and software world of Central and Eastern Europe. We have about 5 million coders in Europe. We have more coders in Europe than we have in the US. And those coders are not often sitting in the hotspots like Berlin or London. They're also sitting in Spain. So we have 2 sites in Barcelona and Madrid. We have even started this year a site in Izmir in Turkey, because this is a 4 million people city where you have very good technical universities. And of course, we are also close to the customer. And the challenge that you see on the left side of the slide on the car software is even bigger than the challenge for aerospace software or some other IT software. So it really means that you need to have a lot of qualified experts and expertise in order to play in this market, and therefore also scaling in this market is very important. You need a good technology. And we have MotionWise, which is our safety platform for automated driving and beyond. And I think these products need to be developed in close cooperation with your customers. And we were very lucky to have Audi and Volkswagen as a lead customer. And they helped us to develop this platform in the context of their ADAS platforms. And you see here some of their cars that they already deploy these platforms in. And of course, you need to have a good reference customer then to be able to scale. Today, we're working with Hyundai, we're working with SAIC in China as well. We're working in Japan. So we try to bring this platform from Central Europe also to the world. So that's it for now. So TTTech is an example of scaling, fast scaling in most of our businesses, and blitz scaling, hopefully, in the auto business.
Georg, fantastic. Really, really great company, a real role model for many founders on the European level. And I'd like to pick up one thing that you mentioned, which also is related to the financing of your company. You showed us a chart which is super interesting. Your very long incubation period, you said it took you over decades or many, many years to develop your product. How do you finance this incubation period?
Yeah, a very interesting question. I think a very important question also for this forum. So it took us 10 years to grow from 0 to 10 million euros in revenues. Yeah? And I'm a founder, so I survived all these different sessions. And we started really with the Austrian incubation and Austrian business angel systems. Yeah, we went at this time to AWS to get guarantees for our private investors. We did the family and friends round of about €1 million in 98. We were one of the first companies to go to venture capital, actually also with this bank here. So Erste Bank was a venture capital investor in our company back in the year 99 and 2000 starting.
We had special fund? Or?
Special fund, yeah. This was the AVCO fund. This was a fund that was originally founded by Erste and Constantia and later took over by Erste Bank.
Okay.
And actually the president of this fund was for nearly 20 years the chairman of our board. So this is how long the relationship goes back to the Austrian banking and venture capital scene. We also had a fund from the Innovationsagentur, which was later founded. I forgot the name, but this was like a special model that came up at the time. We got also loans from the Austrian government, of course also City of Vienna. So we really tried in the first years to get up single million euro digit numbers. You know, this was the year 2000. This was the first wave of tech, and we were very lucky. We had this reputation as a spin-off from TU Vienna. My father was a professor. My co-founder was also, already experienced from industry. So I was the youngster trying to run around and raise capital, but we were successful. And then we said, okay, now if you want to go big and if you want to go to the next step, so going from 10 to 100, we need bigger players. And at that time, it was not really able. We were talking about the mid 2000s, so 2006. There were not a lot of large investors in Austria. That's something that we are changing currently. So we want to attract more investors. So what we did, I asked an Austrian banker in a US investment bank in London whether he knows people that I should meet that could help us in funding. And he said, yeah, you know what? And he was with JP Morgan, so for the credit of JP Morgan. And he said to me, you know what? I think you should go to one of the SAP co-founders in Heidelberg, because they are starting to do tech investments from Europe to the US. So the idea was, it was called at the time First Venture, to go basically to take European tech companies and a little bit copy the model of SAP and take them across the Atlantic and then basically make an exit over there. And they ask also some other German entrepreneurs that are also interested in high tech. One of them is Hans-Peter Wild, who is still one of our major investors, the founder of the Capri Sun. He sells this over 6 billion times a year. And this group came together and said, okay, we make an investment of about 20 million. And then I said, okay, that's a good basis then also to have Audi to come in as a shareholder, because we had a joint venture with Audi at the time. I didn't want to bring in Audi only, because this would have meant that we would be been very much focused on a single industrial company and customer. And Audi liked the idea because it also increased the valuation of the company. And so Audi became a shareholder, and these German entrepreneurs became a shareholder, and then some Austrian individuals, some Austrian private wealthy people also. So this was our first major round. This was in 2006. Yeah, and then basically the big crisis hit of 2008, 2009. So we were right at the right point. We got our equity investment, so we could grow like we also do this year without having to reduce any workforce or without any decreasing our speed. And this was really the incubation that gave us then the next growth scale, because we were really coming out strong of this crisis. And that's also probably something for all the tech entrepreneurs out there, or even entrepreneurs, use this crisis as an opportunity. Yeah? Don't only see the danger, but see also the opportunity that this provides. Yeah? And this is the time to really become in a leadership position if you do now the right steps.
I mean, this is an interesting statement from somebody who is involved in the automotive industry, which obviously currently is not going through the most, so to say, spectacular times.
Yeah, so jump forward to 2018 when we said, okay, we are focusing on TTTech Auto. We saw that the auto industry is completely changing. Yeah, it's becoming a new mobility industry. Yeah, and it's becoming a software industry. And the question that we need to ask ourselves in Central Europe: do we want to be just the mechanical experts? Yeah, or do we also want to become the software experts? Yeah, but if you want to do the software experts, you need to scale. Yeah, because a few hundred people are not enough for the software in the car. Yeah, you need thousands of people. And then it comes basically to the topic of blitz scaling. So how do you blitz scale? Yeah, you need, again, equity. Yeah, this is why we made a 75 million euro investment from Samsung, but we also said we need to go to the public market. We need to IPO this company.
Okay.
So we said from the original starting point of TTTech Auto in 2018, this shall be a public company.
Okay.
TTTech Group will stay a major shareholder, but we want to bring this public because equity financing and public markets, they come together. Yeah?
I think this is a super important statement. Would you say it is crucial to this blitz growth that you mentioned, or
absolutely?
Fast growth?
Yeah. So you need equity, yeah? And you need cash. Yeah, because this uncertainty you can only manage with cash and equity. Yeah, and the best way to get to equity is to go to an IPO. Yeah?
Okay.
So currently we have a structure where we have Audi, Samsung, Infineon, and TTTech Group, with all our private investors as the shareholders of TTTech Auto. But the clear intention is, and Christoph Boschan knows this from the Vienna stock market, that we go public in the foreseeable future. Of course, we don't know yet.
Okay.
We like Vienna, because Vienna is our headquarter city, yeah, and I want to have a very strong Viennese stock exchange. Yeah, so I think that Vienna is, of course, on the top of our list, but there's no decision being made. And it also depends how the business is going. Yeah? Because this year we try to grow by more than 20%. Yeah?
In the Corona year.
In the Corona year, yeah. So we managed this until the third quarter. Yeah. So the fourth quarter is now going to be a challenge, because we're just seeing, the second wave hitting in, and the question is, how long will the budgets remain open this year from our customers? And of course, we are struggling that we can't travel. We are a very global company, and we have all our operations around the world. And at the moment, it's very difficult to go and meet the customer. But on the other hand, it also provides a chance to reflect, to consolidate, to get things in order. And so we just founded this month, so on October 1st, a new business unit in Ingolstadt for our auto business. And this business unit shall focus on the car software operating system, which goes beyond what we are doing with MotionWise, because we believe that MotionWise will be part of a larger automotive operating system.
Which is a security-focused system.
Safety. Yeah, safety. So safety is our core competence. So this meaning that if systems fail, the car is still driving safely.
Amazing. And this new product will be like iOS for
Exactly.
iPhone?
Exactly. So the idea is we have our Android business in Serbia that's mostly focused on the consumer business, and we want to bring in more competence from this Android business into the car. So that's a clear vision. And I think the time is now, because the car is becoming a software-defined product. It's becoming a data center on wheels. Yeah. Driving smartphone, and you need to have the platforms that can provide those services in a safe and secure manner, and that's where we want to position our company, and this is where we are.
Who do you compete with on these markets that you speak about?
I would say the traditional companies, and also like to transform to software companies, but our idea is not to compete with them, but to cooperate with them. Yeah? So we are trying to convince them that it's better to do it jointly. And actually, we believe in those digital platforms. Only 2 or 3 global platforms will prevail. Yeah. So there will probably be a Chinese platform.
Okay.
Even though we are aiming to be the Chinese platform as well with our Chinese joint venture, but there will be a Chinese platform for sure. There will most probably be a Silicon Valley platform. Yeah. And there will most probably be a European platform. Yeah. And what we are currently focusing is saying, if you want to win on the global scale, you have to win locally first. Yeah. And we want to win in Europe first. So our current strategic move is win Europe first by having the right partnerships. We have the largest car maker as our shareholder. This of course supports our strategy. And then of course Asia is very important. On the Silicon Valley, it's the most difficult part, frankly speaking, because Silicon Valley is very proud, and Vienna is known for Mozart Kugels and for, not for Mozart Kugel, but it's known for Mozart, and it's known for the opera, but it's not known really for tech and for our software talent and for our capabilities. And this is where, and also not for our growth financing and our equity markets. And this is where we have to work on in order to get more scale to Vienna and to Europe. We need to a little bit swap the image of this region.
But I mean, you're talking to all the top CEOs of, let's say, Austria and Europe. Do you see this change coming? Is something moving ahead?
I think that there's a much more attitude now for technology than there was 5 years ago. I think the top management completely gets it. The question is, can they drive the organizations to get it? And if you have a certain behavior which is basically entrained in the hierarchical structures, people don't like to change. And now we have this very special circumstance with Corona that people are afraid. People are afraid to lose jobs. The transformation in the car industry, electric powertrains, hybrid powertrains coming, connected cars coming. So everything is changing. So people don't like to make mistakes. And now we are coming in here with a complete, new approach. And of course, there are many arguments why it can't work, and there are many no's, but we have to find this one yes.
And you seem to find it all the time with your company. It's such an amazing story. I would make a short step back into your incubation period, because we made a jump from 2006 to 2018. One question that I think is very crucial for many scale-ups. You have a long product development cycles.
Yes.
And maybe also long cycles when you don't make substantial revenues and you don't cover your costs. Do we have mindset of supporting growth in that period in Europe, supporting making losses in this phase, or do we have to increase the mindset in this phase? Because many scale-ups tell us we're not going to survive because we're demanded to make revenues, and that shifts the focus of the management to creating revenues, and that destroys the blitzscaling strategies.
Very, very good question. And actually it's a question to the investors more than to the entrepreneurs, because entrepreneurs will give you a very clear answer. You need to invest before you can make a return. The question is how to finance the investment. And what we did, and actually this is why it took us so long, we used the revenues we earned from our projects to invest into the product.
Because that took longer to develop the product.
Exactly. But on the other hand, it also gives you in this B2B market an advantage, because you're close to the customer. You learn about the customer. You learn how he acts, how he does. So sometimes in this kind of technologies, you must be really lucky, like Elon Musk or somebody, or a real guru, to be able to create a complete new category. I think the better way to approach this problem is to work with the customer, understand their problem, and then probably really find out where you get traction. And this is also lessons learned. With MotionWise, it's the first time in the auto business. The other businesses are doing differently, but in the auto business, the first time that we have traction. Until we created MotionWise, which happened first launched to market in 2017, we were really struggling to find this market product match. I have one big customer in Europe that always told me, Georg, you have great technology, but where is your market? And then only if as the ADAS systems came up and this topic of autonomous and more autonomous mobility, suddenly there became this enlightenment that people said, okay, safety software, that's not a bad thing to have and to work with. And that's really when we got the traction.
Did you know that the market would come?
No.
Okay.
I mean,
how did you convince your investors to support you?
I mean, we are always looking at markets, and we are always trying to anticipate where the market will be going. You know, this famous statement from Wayne Gretzky, the famous hockey player, you have to imagine where the puck is going. That's an entrepreneurial kind of thing. Yeah, you need to know where in 5 years the market might be, and you need to do the action now, and you need to convince people that the market will be there. Yeah? And in our first vision was aerospace safety at automotive cost, which is also a great vision. And we developed aerospace networks, which is a good business, and we make money in normal years. And now we're going into space with NASA and ESA, which is great, but it's not scale business. It's a lucrative business.
It's a revenue business.
It's a revenue business. It's a profitable business, but it's a small business. And in our case, our vision was to bring these two markets together. And this vision was not being able to accomplish because of certification requirements and the rigidity of the processes in the aerospace industry and the, let's say, dynamic environment in automotive. They simply don't play fully together. So this is why we had to change our strategy. This is why we have the separate companies now, because we don't see a lot of cross-industry synergies. And also because the investors that we have different requirements. Some would like to be public and would like to make an exit. Others would like to keep us close to them and would like to keep us private.
So you offer them different strategies in investments. You mentioned your new company that you started on the 1st of October, operating platform for cars. And you
business unit.
And one could be in China, Asia, one in the US, one in Europe.
Yes.
Will it be the winner takes it all kind of market, or will there be enough space for more players?
It will be a winner takes it most, because there are a lot of government interest. We are in this very interesting geopolitical, let's say, game. Europe has to decide between Europe Europe has to decide between China and the US. I think Europe doesn't have to decide between Europe and China. Europe has to decide to lead in certain markets, and in these markets we are in, industrial markets, we need to lead. We need to build the platforms, and we need to build the ecosystems to be the leading platform. Then we can scale. So scaling capital is one important element, but you need to understand how the market dynamics will work out. And in these digital platforms, be it Industrial Edge or Auto Software, these are our two growth platforms. I firmly believe that Europe can be the leader. And we are just working on an investment, and you will be the first one to hear if we close it, where we are trying to do an investment in our Industrial Edge business, where we again working with a company out of Silicon Valley to really provide this digital platform edge out of Central Europe into the world.
Amazing. Can Europe finance such projects, or do you need investors from America, China, and other countries?
Of course they can, but do they want to finance these projects? That's the interesting question. And do we have the professional, let's say, quality of investor communities that can really channel the money to the entrepreneurs and then not be, let's say, that the one in the board that always says we have to make a profit next year and this is taking too long, because there are some companies that are public in the US that still don't make a profit. I'm not saying it's the right strategy. I think you should be profitable. And in our case, we want to be profitable when we go public, because we don't want to have these discussions, but you don't need to be profitable. And this is, I think, very important, that in some markets, you simply need to get to the scale before you can go to a profit. And this is not our mindset that we have in Europe. And I think if the growth mindset of the investors is that you can scale with a chance of profitability later on, I think this will change a lot of things to the better in Europe.
And this is not a question of regulation. This is a question of our community at this event to understand the need to finance this scale-up in order to be global champions.
Exactly.
What were your struggles if you reflect back on your way to being a scale-up?
So at the moment we are a group of companies that are trying to scale. Some of them scale, some of them don't scale. I mean, I focus my time in the auto business because that's where we have our current primary focus. There is a question of acquiring the right talent. We just hired a former manager from Toyota in Japan. We just hired a former manager from a large German car maker in Germany. They need to share the vision, and they need to then to be able to create a culture as one team. And you have seen we have so many different locations around Europe, different nationalities, different mindsets, and we need to create a European or even a tech mindset. It works out actually very well in the company. But I think these are, doesn't say obstacles, but these are things you need to be aware that scaling provides organizational, let's say, struggles, and you need to spend enough time to work on those organizational issues, not just on the market and product, but you have to have the right people in your team that are working out the organizational topics, because they can catch you. There's an American term that says organizational debt, or technical debt.
Technical debt,
that's coming in if you scale without bringing in the structures, and that's where we are currently also, I think, have some homework to do. Every new unit, of course, provides more complexity.
We hear a lot of times that we're lacking a so-called follow-up capital to have a next bigger round, but you seem to have found your rounds for any needed time. Is it a real issue, or would you not see that?
I think the question is, how do you connect to the right investors?
Okay.
And I think that this forum here and other events in a normal time when we meet physically would be a chance to connect investors to companies. In my opinion, we need to be careful that we are not underestimating the efforts, I think, of younger entrepreneurs to find the right investors. And I think we need to look what we can do in Vienna and in Austria and in Europe to get more investors attractive enough or attracted that they invest in our local community. Most investors invest like half an hour where can they drive with the car. That's by most investments.
Is that the case?
Yeah, that's the case. Yeah, that's
Okay.
why Silicon Valley investors invest in Silicon Valley. And it's not that they want us to go to Silicon Valley, but if you want to get their money, you need to be in Silicon Valley. They normally don't go to Munich or to London to make investments.
But that would mean that we would be, so to say, well advised to create a strong capital market in Austria to draw these funds to have their headquarters or at least some kind of offices in Vienna.
Exactly. So regional. I always trying to talk to our friends at different companies to open their European offices, not in Berlin but in Vienna. And trying to make Vienna as attractive for them that they make their regional investment offices here. It's not really working yet, so we have to still keep on pushing. Also, by example, I talk this often also to we don't have a direct connection between San Francisco and Vienna. It seems like very, but they don't have it on their roadmap. If they have to fly through Frankfurt, it's a small things that we can improve if the air travel comes back. But in my opinion, we need to get the investors. You're completely right, and we need to provide the exits to the investors, because this is then the recycling of the capital. If you make money, then you can reinvest money. If there are no good exits, there's no let's say vicious cycle of capital, and we need to make our people in our country. We need to make them to shareholders. We need to make them to investors. We need to make them that they buy into this tech and digital companies.
Only 7% of Austrian population has investments in
Exactly.
stocks.
And that's where the problem starts, because if they invested more, there would be more exits. If there would be more exits, there would be more capital in the system, and if there would be more capital in the system, more company would go up.
One question in relation to that. We hear oftentimes if we would have, I don't know, 20, 30 funds in Austria, they would not have enough investment opportunities because we do not have so many teams. And Rudolf Kinski, the president of AVCO, always says, but that's not the point. Liechtenstein, I think, or Luxembourg has 250 funds there, and obviously they invest 80%, 90% of the capital internationally, but there's a market there and their presence. Yeah,
but Vienna is the capital of the Danube region, and our reach is far beyond Austria. So firstly, we have here a super qualified workforce going from Bavaria to Serbia, or even to Turkey in our case. I was really amazed when I was in Izmir. Cool. With 4 million people and leading technical universities and really great people that want to do something. So I think firstly, it's not only Austria, it's Central Europe. Secondly, as you said before, it's about the exits, and it's about scaling. We need to pick those companies that can scale, and we must make them big. And then you can make very good IPOs. Then you have the large investment banks that are interested because the public float is there. So this is, I think we are a little bit talking too much niche, and the normal, I think, Austrian investor is looking, I can find this startup I can bring it to 10 million revenues, and then I can sell it for 100 million, and then I made a super job because I've made this exit. But that's, I think, it shouldn't be the elite of the investors.
Yeah.
The elite of the investors should pick the companies that have 100 million in revenues, and so we bring it to 1 billion or 2 billion, yeah, and we make a 10 billion market cap, yeah, and then we have a great wealth creation for the country, and most of the employees and some of the people living in this country are then investors and shareholders, and they get dividends and they benefit from this digital success.
Because as you mentioned, the pure capital, the pure cash, we do have.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a problem of intermediation. So we need to have those investors that are able to collect the cash from wealthy people and that are able to create exits by helping companies to scale. I think startups are very important, but the scaling is where the value is created in terms of real wealth creation for a national economy, for the investors, and for the companies. Yeah. And we should really put the focus on scaling, and I'm really happy that Rudolf Kinski invited TTTech to this event and that we could discuss the scaling topic today, because I don't think that we talk enough about scaling.
It is one of the most fascinating companies that we have in Europe, and Georg, from my perspective, one of the most inspiring founders that I know. I have just one statistic. The European Commission estimates that in the next 20 years, up to 1 million new jobs will be created in the EU, and up to $2 trillion additional GDP could be generated if the share of scale-ups were as high as in the USA.
Yep.
So super relevant to the topic. Thank you for all your insights and inputs to this topic. And we will be, so to say, hoping that you are one of our premium scale-ups.
The struggle goes on. Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Georg, so much. Thank you for being with us. One of the really most inspiring founders that we have in Europe. We will, so to say, try to help you grow further with our activities. I hope it was interesting talk for you. Thank you and goodbye.